I asked a robot to pick colors for my home. I don't know if you've been on the internet recently, but it seems like our world is changing. I'm talking, of course, about artificial intelligence, AI, just blowing my mind. ChatGPT is this magical thing that's appeared in the last couple months that essentially shows us the power of what AI can do. Essentially, it's this program that you can access on your computer or your phone that uses artificial intelligence to basically write anything for you. It's super easy to use. You just type in a question and it'll write out a beautiful answer for you. And these questions can be anything from show me a great Napoleon cake recipe or pick me a color palette for my home, which is what I did. Because this, of course, is The Paint People. I'm James, and we do 6 videos a week on painting and decorating. So today what I wanted to do was test out this AI in my world, in my little interior decorating paint world. So what I did was I asked this program, I just typed out, please suggest me a color palette for my home. And this is what it says. I would suggest a neutral color palette for your walls. Neutral colors are versatile and work well with many different decor styles. Okay, so far so good. Some options include shades of gray from light to dark, so a little bit of a monochromatic thing going on. Beige or taupe, love taupe. White or off-white, okay, you can go with either or. Soft blue or green. Light pink or peach. It goes on to say, you can also try to mix and match different shades of the same color to create a sense of depth and dimension. Additionally, you could add an accent wall with a bolder color or a pattern wallpaper to bring some interest in the space. This is all from me typing in, give me a color palette for my house. And it's feeding me all this information in real time. So my first impression, pretty good, but I wanted actual paint colors. I didn't want just a general bird's eye view of, okay, neutrals, maybe a bit of blue, maybe a bit of green. Big deal, ChatGPT. You're not coming for my job, buddy.
I am
ChatGPT.
your life as it has been is over.
But then I asked it a second question. I got a little more specific here. I said, which neutral colors would you recommend on my walls by Sherwin-Williams? This robot tells me repose gray, agreeable gray, alpaca, sea salt, which we just talked about in a previous video, balanced beige, and gauntlet gray. And each of these colors has a little tidbit of information on each one, little description here and there. And always try to paint a sample first before committing to a big space. So test your colors out. It's very important. It turns out if you just ask for a little more information, you'll get that information. Specific colors. Looks like you don't need me anymore, guys. I do have some opinions on this that I want to get into in a little second, but I asked this robotic wizard, this artificial intelligence, what Sherwin-Williams color should I paint my baseboards with? Because as you all know, you don't just paint your walls, you gotta paint that woodwork too. This is where it got a little bit strange, but then sort of resolved itself in the end. When it comes to baseboards, the best practice is to paint them the same color as your walls. This creates a seamless look and makes the baseboards blend in with the walls, making them less noticeable. While I do agree that in some cases, it's nice to create that seamless look where the baseboards match the walls, traditionally, you go with a lighter color, a white or an off-white, so they look nice and clean, right? But let's see what else they say. However, if you want to make your baseboards more noticeable, a good option is to paint them with a color that is slightly darker than the wall color. Interesting nuanced approach, ChatGPT. I do agree with this that if you do want a darker trim color, you can always take your wall color and then go a few shades darker, whether it's on a color chip or you can just find a color that is in that same family and then just pick a darker version. We still haven't talked about white baseboards. Like that's a standard, right? The program goes on to talk about different product lines, Emerald Interior and Pro Classic interior lines. And then there's a little add-on at the end. Extra white, pure white again with a different color code. Okay. Snowbound and snowfall white. So we got there in the end, but it's kind of interesting that you got 3 different approaches to baseboards. But what's cool is I just typed in some very conversational sentences about paint colors, and this program just talked back to me in a good way and helped me out. If you're an interior decorator watching out there, should you be scared for your job security? Like, is this going to replace all of us? There's a few things that I want to point out. The colors that were recommended to me are colors that are talked about a lot online, which makes sense because a big part of this is collecting data from all over the internet, to formulate its best guess as to what you're saying, essentially. Which means this artificial intelligence is going to be reading a million blogs and listening to videos of people like me talking about colors, and then just sort of spitting out an answer that's in a very digestible format. But from my experience using it, I didn't really get a lot of creative responses that really just piqued my interest, essentially. Because we all know about repose gray and agreeable gray. We all talk about it. But as far as just a base level sort of starting point, this is amazing. Where ChatGPT sort of failed me was when I asked it for the current most popular paint colors on Google right now. Unfortunately, it gave me the most popular colors from 2021. A full 2 years ago. The program isn't able to update itself in real time. It's using information from 2 years ago and then further back. In an industry that is predicated on current trends and what's happening right now, that doesn't really help us. I really encourage you to try this thing out because you can write, find me a color palette, and then say, okay, now pick colors that are darker. Now say it to me in a funny way. And it's just absolutely wild to think where we'll be 5, 10, 20 years from now with this sort of technology. From artificial intelligence to a mediocre amount of intelligence, it's just me talking about paint colors in my fleshy, beardy glory. That's weird.